Hello, hello, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're at. Hope you're having a fantastic Tuesday so far. This is the Claims Recruiter Office Hours weekly live stream. We are live. It is episode 26. It's brought to you by Crew Talent Group, the greatest claims recruiting company on planet Earth and beyond. Hope you're having a wonderful Tuesday so far. It is 9 a.m. out here. Beautiful Portland, Oregon. It is 4th of July week. Wonderful day so far. Got up, ran 4 miles this morning. Having an awesome day. Thanks so much for tuning in. Let's test this chat. Let's see if this thing's working. Boom, there it is. We are officially live, and we are going to get right into it this morning. We got a action-packed live stream. If you're new here, if this is your first time tuning in, it's pretty open format. I've got some segments, some things I talk about. If you want to say hello in the chat, Ebony's saying hello. Thanks so much for tuning in, Ebony. Hope you're having a wonderful Tuesday. But yeah, it's totally open format. The goal of this show is to help 100 people get jobs and insurance in the year 2026. So far, we're 23 of 100. So I'm trying to help provide information to job seekers, hiring managers, anybody out there who's tuning in. I have worked in claims recruiting for the last decade. Now own my own recruiting firm, Crew Talent Group. And so, yeah, this is totally open format. So say hello if you got things you want to chat about, things on your mind, topics, questions. Last week, we did a whole entire resume rundown where I gave you my tips for building an awesome claims resume. If you want that resume for free, cost you nothing, head over to crewtalentgroup.com, join the Crew Talent Network. Good morning, Caleb. Hope you're having an awesome day. Saw some Midwest weather action last night. Saw some things here, some straight line winds. Maybe not where you're at, but maybe a little bit north, Dakotas. We got Elliot in the chat. Good luck on your marathon this weekend. Let's go, dude. Appreciate you tuning in. Live on Facebook too. We're live on not Instagram. Yeah, soon. We're gonna be live on Instagram, but we're live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. Also on my website, crewtalentgroup.com. Also on our other website, claimsrecruiter.com. It's Ebony's first time here. Thanks so much for tuning in. So let's pop in. We're gonna get right to it. Got a couple videos, some interesting reaction videos, things I found on the wonderful app of TikTok. So let's get into it. Let's pop over, see what we got. So first video is going to be a highlight from Ryan Holiday. Ryan Holiday is the author of this book, Daily Stoic, and he is author of a bunch of other Stoicism related books. Really interesting author. Highly recommend this book specifically. From his podcast with Cody Sanchez, just talking about leadership, and I found this really interesting. I want to just react to it live, so let's get into it. Oh. Okay, let's...
If you want to teach your people to build a boat, don't teach them about ropes and nails and wood. Teach them to yearn for the vast and endless sea. And I go back to that so often because I think your job as a CEO is really only to do like 3 things. And the first one is to give them a vision so big that they can see themselves winning bigger with you than without you. And the second is to course correct and be very clear on what explicitly you're going to do next. And then the third is to make sure that you never run out of money to be able to continue to fund the first 2. And I think a lot of leaders forget that. And like, if you can teach your team to yearn for the thing, you'll win. And every time in business, when we're not yearning for the thing is when we're not winning. Yeah. And I see it again and again and again.
Okay, so that got me super fired up when I saw that the first time. I'm going to play it again. I'm going to kind of pause it a couple times in here, just kind of go over some things that she said. Cody Sanchez, awesome podcast. I don't know. I actually should probably do some more research into what exactly she does, but like leadership, really good content around leadership, things like that. But let's go.
Teach your people to build a boat. Don't teach them about ropes and nails and wood. Teach them to yearn for the vast and endless sea.
I absolutely love that quote. I think it's such a good analogy. It's kind of like the whole like you can teach a man to fish, that whole thing. It's kind of similar along the same lines. But I think it's really interesting from a leadership perspective. Like, if you're a leader, if you're a CEO, if you're a manager out there leading people, you want to get them fired up about whatever that is that you're doing. And she kind of gets into it again here.
And I go back to that so often because I think your job as a CEO is really only to do like three things. And the first one is to give them a vision so big that they can see themselves winning bigger with you than without you.
And that part specifically, I think, is so key. I think that's like the best message in this video that she gives is people have competition on where they can work, where they want to go to work, who they want to work for, companies that they want to work with. Um, and you as a business leader or a business owner or business owners out there, business leaders out there, leadership teams, executive suites, people need to think about that and what attracts people to come work for you. And people want to work for people that they believe in, and they want to work for teams and ideas that they believe in. And I think it's your job as a leader, or leaders' jobs are out there. It's their job to kind of inspire people, and people are going to work harder when they believe in the message, when they want to be a part of a team, when they're working for a common good. And back when I'm thinking like I'm not an employee anymore, I work for myself. Back when I did work for companies, I worked harder for companies that I believed in, and I believed the message. I think back to the last company that I worked for, Signature Adjustment Group. I think they have a incredible vision, and I think the leadership of that team does a really good job of putting out that vision to their team, and that vision to me is creating really good opportunities for adjusters. And I think they do a really good job of putting that out there in the world and telling their team and explaining that, but also like social proof, and that's how they act every single day, and that's how they do it. And it starts with, it starts. Everybody knows where that starts. It starts with good fee schedules and good pay and treating people right and how you treat your employees. But I think that's a really important call out for her. I know, like, it's easy to go back to pay for that, but I just the vision of a company, eh, and being able to articulate that to your employees to the point where they believe in it. And you don't need to teach your employees how to do, you so often see it. People don't want to be micromanaged. You don't need to teach someone how to do every aspect of their job. If they truly believe in the mission and believe in what you're building, they're going to teach themselves. They're going to figure it out their own. And not saying don't need teach people how to do things, but it gets me fired up thinking about that.
The second is to course correct and be very clear on what explicitly you're going to do next.
And that again is an awesome call out. Like, when it's not working, you got to own it, change it, and go. And if it's so obvious when things aren't working at a company. It's so obvious when things aren't going your way. And I've been a part of companies where it's like clearly things aren't going your way. And you get into meetings and everyone's like, this is awesome. This is fantastic. This is wonderful. We're crushing it. And everybody's sitting there knowing that you're not. It's so fake and it's so weird. And you leave the meeting and everyone's kind of gossiping. Oh, that was crazy. We all know people see through that. So I think again, really good call out. And then the third, and I'm gonna turn this off now, but the third is obviously as a business owner, leadership team is, the most important part. The third one is you have to be able to fund the operation in order to do one and two, right? And so that's another good call out. It's kind of fun. I think most individual people or management and leaders don't necessarily have the ability to affect that type of change. Obviously, if you're the CEO or ownership group of a company, um, you do. But interesting. Interesting little video. I got that got me fired up. I really like Ryan Holiday. I like listening to him. I think he's got some really interesting perspectives. I like his take on stoicism. And yeah, and if you haven't seen this book, highly recommend. It's called Daily Stoic. Every single day, it's basically a meditation from some philosopher. One page every day. And so it's kind of interesting book. Stoicism is something that I've kind of been exploring. I have 12 years experience, GIS engineer looking for a new job opportunity. I currently live in India. I don't do a whole lot of overseas staffing. I haven't done really anything with engineering, so I wish you the best. I got a resume template if you want to get it on my website, crewtalentgroup.com. You can join the Crew Talent Network to get that. But I'm going to be totally honest with you. I probably am not going to have a whole lot of super valuable advice for like overseas staffing. And also, I haven't done a whole lot with uh, kind of the immigration stuff. So I am not going to be your expert on that, but I definitely wish you the best in your job search. You know, engineers is a really important part of the claims process, really important industry to be in. So I definitely wish you the best in your job search there. Okay, moving on. I've got another quick little video reaction, then we'll get into the kind of the bulk of the show. Hopping right into it. Let's hear it. This is a recruiter on TikTok.
There's a moment in the interview
Oh.
where every recruiter knows this is the candidate that's getting hired. Even there's a moment in the
I cannot
interview
hear
where
this.
every recruiter knows this is the candidate that's getting hired, even if it's at the very preliminary interview. And this often will happen within the first 5
I
or
can't
6
hear the
minutes of
sound.
the interview. And the one common denominator across all these candidates is they just seem to get it. They know.
My bad. Okay. As a user error. You can hear the sound. I couldn't hear the sound because I had the mute button on. So let's do it again. Sorry about that. Your ears are probably bleeding after that, but here we go.
There's a moment in the interview where every recruiter knows this is the candidate that's getting hired, even if it's at the very preliminary interview. And this often will happen within the first 5 or 6 minutes of the interview. And the one common denominator across all these candidates is they just seem to get it. They know exactly what it is that we're trying to solve. And it's almost like they're custom made for the position. And you want to know the very first thing that the recruiter does after they conclude this interview? They contact the hiring manager and they say, we have our candidate. You need to fast track them. I'm batting 1,000% on this one. Show them very clearly that you understand the position and be the solution to their problem. You will land more job offers, I promise you.
I think that's an interesting video and reaction. My reaction to that would be there's some truth in that, but it's not necessarily anything that you can do as a candidate. Right. Typically, as a recruiter, my job is to understand what a hiring manager is looking for, go out and find whatever they're looking for that position. And doing this for 10 years, working for different companies, even when I worked for one company, sometimes I'm doing recruiting for different insurance companies within that. That's how the staffing side works. You know, you work for an independent firm, you might be staffing for 10 different insurance companies. So you get to know the people involved, you get to know the competencies you're looking for, you're getting to know the behavioral, the characteristics, the experience levels, the people that the hiring manager is looking for. You as a recruiter don't necessarily, you're not making the decision, hey, we're hiring this person. My job is to present the options, right? And my job is ultimately to go out and find as close as possible to what they're looking for as I can. But there is a little bit of truth of that where sometimes 5 minutes into an interview, you know it's the person, but it's not a sixth sense. It's not intuition. It's not a gut, it's not instinct. It's an understanding. This is what we're looking for. You go look for it for 3 months sometimes. Hopefully it doesn't take that long. Hopefully it takes 2 weeks. Hopefully it takes 2 days, but yeah, when you know, and it's not necessarily a certain thing that you can do as a candidate or a certain answer you can give to a question. It's about alignment for the role. And so, while I agree with the overall sentiment of that video, I don't know if there's a tip or advice that I can give you as a recruiter to say, okay, that's how you can be that person. Sometimes it's truly just about alignment and fit, and it's not anything you do personally or sometimes it's, I want someone with this type of experience that has handled these specific types of claims or had exposure to this line of experience or, line of insurance. And it can kind of come out on a resume, and then you kind of know going into it, this person has the experience needed. But now I'm going to use the interview time to vet for certain competencies or certain behaviors or certain motivators. Typically, you can kind of do some of that within the first 5 minutes. So I do agree with some of that video, but at the same time, I don't necessarily think there's something that candidate to go out and just get that job every time you get that interview. It's sometimes about alignment, and sometimes it sucks, but you might not be the exact fit that looking for it. So let's keep popping along. This is the Claims Recruiter Office Hours weekly live stream. Thanks so much for tuning in. Quick little goals of the week. Quick little goals of the week. My goals of the week are to stay hydrated and to sleep every night, go to bed at 9 p.m. That are my 2 goals of the week. I got marathon. I'm running my first ever marathon this week on Saturday. Elliot put it in the comments there, but I'm just trying to be going to Saturday with my body as healthy and my mind as calm as I possibly can. And that's all about drinking lots of water, eating really healthy, and going to sleep, getting my 8 hours of quality sleep every single day. Sleep score above 87 today, so that's pretty sweet. Pop your goals in the chat. Ebony said, I'm a licensed insurance adjuster. I have 21 active licenses, almost a year and a half of experience with desk property claims. I've had a couple of interviews, but that email, we've moved forward with another candidate. Ebony, I have talked to a lot of people recently, and I don't know your specific background. But one thing that I will tell you is the property market is extremely difficult right now, especially for desk adjusters. With 21 active licenses, I'm kind of making an assumption here that the work were you doing independent work, or were you working for a TPA? I don't know. I'm kind of guessing, but I talk to people every day, especially people who are working in the independent world that are struggling right now on the property side. It's really difficult to get jobs. Number of reasons for that. I think we could talk an entire live stream just about that. But what I'll say is the majority of the work, the jobs that I'm seeing online, the people I'm talking to are not in property right now. And so that would be one recommendation that I have for you, is to kind of look along some other lines. And again, it's difficult, you working property, to move into an auto role, to move into liability type roles, even workers' comp. I've been trying to become staff. So keep at it. First off, it's going to happen. It's going to come around. We're starting to see, storms last night. You were just talking about it. Pilot, the independent world, is extremely weather driven, and we haven't seen weather in the last months, and so that's part of the issue that's going on. There's a lot more stability right now in auto, in liability, in workers' comp, and so I would definitely be looking at some of those types of positions depending on where you're living. Moving from a year and a half of property into auto, like, you're probably going to be looking at more entry level type roles. And so, it's not necessarily what people want to hear right now, but there's more jobs if you have the ability to go in office or potentially go hybrid. And so that's what I would definitely look for, is some of the bigger box companies that have kind of more training programs that hire more, entry level type positions is what I would look at. And I would definitely be open to auto roles. I'm seeing a lot of opportunity I think the next couple years, what we'll continue to see is commercial transportation is becoming a really big niche marketplace for insurance. We're seeing a lot of different TPAs popping up. We're seeing on the brokerage side, there's a lot of MGAs popping up that are selling commercial transportation policies. So I think that's a super hot market. If I was an adjuster right now, starting out today, I would be trying to get into personal lines auto, specifically liability or bodily injury, and trying to move up through there. I think that's a really great entry point into claims. And then if you get a couple years of personal lines auto under your belt, you can kind of navigate into some of these more commercial type positions. And I think that's where the money's going to be at. Realistically, you're going to be able to do a little bit more financially there. But yeah, open to anything. No, I get it. And again, like I totally want you, like it sucks right now. It sucks. So I totally empathize with you. I wish you the best. Again, if you want a resume template, head over to crewtalentgroup.com, join the Crew Talent Network. It'll send you a free resume template, and I'm happy to look over your resume if you want to send it to me too. Start there. But yeah, look at some of those. I mean, the bigger carriers, personal lines auto is a really good entry point. It's a little competitive, but companies like Geico um, are starting to do some hiring, especially on auto. And the independent stuff, it will return. I think one of the things you really got to be intentional about when you're applying for staff roles is you want to make sure to kind of let the companies know that you're looking for full-time work, right? A lot of the hesitation I see from larger companies hiring full-time people looking at independence is there's concern that a big hurricane hits, you're going to jump and take the best desk assignment that you can in 3 months when the big storm hits. And so, being really upfront about it, even put a little thing on your resume in your professional summary that you're looking for a full-time role or that you're switching to auto. And you can have different resumes. You don't have to have a different resume for every single job, but if you're applying for auto roles, maybe one resume. If you're applying for property roles, maybe a different resume. If you're applying to workers' comp, maybe one. And so you can kind of tailor it not to every single job, but like to the specific role types that you might be applying for. But those are things that I would look at. And yeah, like kind of entry level auto, you're going to have the most success with jobs right now, either hybrid or in office somewhere. So when people come to me and ask like, where do I start looking? I always say like, go to your city, look at the big tall building, that sign with the insurance company up there. That's the building. That's the company you probably want to apply with. I don't know where you live geographically, but that's what I would start to look at. And it's hard. It just kind of depends geographically where you're at, what companies. There are remote positions out there, but I would say for every remote position, there's 6 or 7 hybrid or in-office ones. It seems like that's where they're moving. But yeah, check out. I mean, auto just seems to be a lot hotter right now than property. Who knows? But okay, quick little shout out. We got this segment, Hear You Winning. We love to hear people listening to the show, people tuning in, hear them winning. So just want to shout out Bailey, who tuned in for the first time last week, reworked their resume, and was able to get a couple interviews last week. Reached out to me via LinkedIn, let me know that they were able to get a couple interviews. Really excited about conversations. So shout out Bailey, keep crushing. If you're looking for an adjuster, this is the place to be. We got adjusters looking for work. We've got really great people in the comments here, even today. So if you're a hiring manager, this is where you want to be. But shout out Bailey, redoing the resume, crushing it. Good luck on your interviews. Hopefully you crush it. Hit me up once you get that next job. I want to hear from you. And if anybody else is out there crushing it, I want to hear from you. Send me a DM, send me an email, reach out to me. I'm on every social media platform that I know of. Love to hear awesome stuff from folks. That's the whole purpose of this podcast. The goal is to help 100 people get jobs in the year 2026. We are at 23 of 100. We're almost halfway through the year, so we got a lot of work to do. We're trying. We're crushing. Okay. What's next? Oh, I don't even know if I should talk about this. I might spend like an hour. I'm going to make a quick video on this later this week. It's something that I'm extremely passionate about, and it sounds really weird and it sounds lame, but it's something I'm really, really passionate about, and it's liability law in the state of Oregon. If you don't know, I live in the state of Oregon. I'm here. I call Portland, Oregon my home. Portland, Oregon has a lot of weird laws. I'm well aware. It's an interesting place in the world. Not going to get into the politics of the region of Portland, Oregon. But one thing specifically that I'm very passionate about is the ability to do recreation. And our it's one of the most amazing things about our country is public lands, how vast, how beautiful. We've done a really, really excellent job between the National Park Service, the National Forest Service of building and maintaining public lands for people to recreate on. It's one of the main reasons I moved to the state of Oregon to begin with, is because I love recreation. I love skiing. I love hiking. I love running. I love the ocean. I love water, all that stuff. And the state of Oregon specifically has some of the wackiest laws relating to liability, specifically around the waiver. And if I've made some videos on this in the past. One of my best ever videos on social media was a long form video that I did about recreation law in the state of Oregon. But one of the interesting things that's happened here recently, prior to April of this year, I think April 1st of 2026, waivers were not enforceable in the state of Oregon, which means if you go to a ski area, they have a waiver that you sign that says, if I get hurt on this ski area, basically I can't sue. You know, there's caveats to that. Of course, you can always sue. Basically, in the state of Oregon, those waivers meant nothing. There was no legal bound, and the reason it all goes back to a case that happened in 2014 where somebody sued Mount Bachelor, a ski area in the state of Oregon, over they hit a jump, got injured, very critically injured, very sad story. Ended up suing the ski area, saying that they were negligent in creating that jump, even though that skier hit that jump multiple times that day. Ended up suing and winning, and the Supreme Court of Oregon threw out waivers, said you cannot enforce these waivers. They are not enforceable in the state. What happened there, massive lawsuits constantly for ski areas in the state. Ski areas getting sued left and right. Ski areas closing down because of it. And what ended up happening over 10 years is insurers started pulling out to the point where all of their insurers had pulled out except for one. There's Timberline, a ski resort in about an hour away from here. Their premiums went 600% up in the last 4 years. That's a legitimate statistic. Their insurance premiums have increased 600% in 4 years. Because there was a statistic that was like 50% of the lawsuits between $1 million and $10 million in the country at ski areas, 50% of them were in Oregon. And so I've heard the craziest stories about this. Like there was a gym, an athletic facility that paid someone $30,000 in a payout because they injured themselves jumping on a Bosu ball in a gym. Crazy stuff. So I've been following this for a long time. In April, our legislator here in the state of Oregon had a session, and we passed a law. I can't remember the Senate bill number. Basically, now saying that waivers are enforceable. 86 people voted on this bill. 2 people voted no. One of which was a plaintiff's lawyer. And almost 100% of the people voted in favor of this. It needed to happen. Over 126 people spoke in support of the bill. 0 people spoke against it, and we enforced waivers. Well, now, just this week, a new operator selected to revive Spout Springs Ski Area, Oregon, with plans for year-round activities. We're already seeing the positive effects of this bill, which has not even been in effect for over 2 months. Timberline insurance premiums are going down. We have a ski area now that's been out of business for almost 8 years. They've been looking for a new operator to come in and take over this land lease. And all of a sudden now, 2 months after this bill happens, we find someone. It's really interesting. And again, I could talk about this for so long, but the effects of social inflation, we see it in property insurance. We see some of this Sue Happy, the attorney. We saw it in Florida, specifically in the property market. And then now we're seeing insurers flood back into Florida. We're seeing positive changes with legislation for insurance, basically making it so people don't sue as much. But who's affected when we have thousands of people, or lots of people suing other people? Our insurance premiums go up. And I'm not saying you shouldn't sue. I'm not saying that there's never times when you shouldn't have the ability. And I'm not saying that people should waive all their rights. If you get hit by a snowcat at a ski area, if a lift malfunctions and breaks your leg, if if they rent you a pair of defective skis, sue away. If you're injured as a result of something like that, you should be able to sue. But that's not what this law does. It's just common sense. So I'm really excited about this. I'm excited. I think it's the 15th ski area that we'll have now in Oregon, going to open next year. So really interesting, positive news coming out of the industry. So I want to briefly touch on that. I'm going to make a video about that probably later this week, but I'm really excited about that. We got Caleb in the chat saying, you've helped me with my resume. I got introduced to Adjuster Insights through your interview with Natalie. I've been able to get a good jump start here in the St. Louis market after my relocation. Let's go. We're going to add you to the road to 100. We're going to add you on it. I don't care. That counts for me. So we're going to add you. Let's just go ahead and get that on here. Road to 100. Well, we're going to 24, baby. Let's go. Got the... I don't know if you can hear this. Let's go. We got West in the chat saying, I remember when you first told me about this, skiing in Oregon is at risk and it's not just the weather. It was to the point where I was concerned, and other people, and that's why it was such a big topic in Oregon, is because it wasn't just hey, prices are insane, which they are, by the way. It's wildly more expensive to ski out here than any other state. It was like we were at risk, basically. And again, I could talk for 45 minutes about this. But if Mountain Guard, who's the last insurer, Safe Hold Risk was one. There was two insurers up until about 2 years ago. Safe Hold Risk, who I've worked with personally, fantastic company. Fantastic company. They insured the company that I used to work at back in Minnesota. They insured that ski area. Wonderful company. Got to meet their adjusters. They would come out and do risk management plans with us. Their claims adjuster would fly out to Minnesota, tour our ski area, and do risk assessments. Like, it's insurance companies aren't there just to screw people. They're there to try and make things safer, right? And so we hear that like rhetoric constantly. Oh, they're out to get you. They were flying out to come out and be like, you guys should do this. They were consulting us on how to build our jumps. I went and did a 3-day-long seminar with our insurance company showing us how to build rails and jumps. So I know Safe Hold Risk is a fantastic company. Pulled out of Oregon. Done. Didn't want to deal with it. Didn't want to write policies. So Mountain Guard's currently the only insurer in the state. I think we'll maybe see some competition start to come in. But they were basically saying, hey, if this doesn't change, we're out too. That happened. None of the insurance or the skiers in the state would have been able to get insurance. So I'm hoping to see more rafting companies. I'm hoping to see more mountain bike parks. I'm hoping to see more ski areas, things like that. So it's so important to me. But it's kind of along the same vein of insurance, liability. Interesting stuff. Yeah, thanks so much, Caleb. It's been awesome to have you here tuning in. Hope you're crushing it over there in St. Louis. Hope the winds are blowing. Okay, I posed this question in a couple of forums. I specifically put this question in the Rise community, and I wanted to hear from people who currently work in risk management. I think the claims to risk management pipeline is a really interesting kind of career transition. And I don't want to tease it too much, but maybe in the future we'll have some people on the show and kind of talk about some things like this. That's specifically one of the avenues I want to go, is talk to some people. But I recently worked with a company that does a little bit more risk management as well as adjusting. And so I think it's a really interesting pipeline, and I think adjusters should consider it, think about it. I hear from people time to time like, hey, I'm getting really burned out of this. I think sometimes that claims adjusting has like a life, and people do get burned out of it and want to move on to different things. And I think there's a number of different places you can go from claims. Excuse me, but risk management is one of those. And I wanted to hear from people who worked in it. And so I got a few different answers. Basically, I got 3 different answers on this question that were all very similar. And what most people said is is get your designation, specifically the CPCU designation. So I think it's a good call out, and I think it's legitimate, and it was from people who are currently working in the field, and it's something I wanted to highlight. And I know um, they're not easy. I don't know how long exactly the CPCU takes. It takes a long time, CPCU, but that's the the advice that I'm getting from people in it and talking to people who are in these positions is to look into some of these insurance designations. Where I would start, if this is something that interests you or intrigues you, is I would start looking at the ARM designation, the Associates in Risk Management, and that builds on your AIC and builds onto your CPCU. So you can start taking classes for one of the designations, and that gives you credits towards the next one, which gives you credit towards the next one. So your CPCU is going to take a long time, but that's where I would start. Another really interesting career path that you can take is working specifically for a self-insurer. And there's lots of different companies that are self-insured, but there are jobs in claims for companies that are self-insured, and some of it's TPA oversight, some of it's working with brokers, some of it's working with TPAs, some of it's working claims directly, and so different companies do it different ways. But a good example out here in the Pacific Northwest, I've talked to some people that work for Starbucks. Starbucks, obviously we all know what Starbucks is, but you think about the number of locations that Starbucks has, and the dollar amounts that they would be paying in premiums if they went through the insurance route. They were to go out and purchase a policy broker, that their premiums would probably be size of a small insurance company. So what Starbucks did is started their own risk pool. They're self-insured. I'm sure it's to a point, and they may have layers on top of that, and different companies do it different ways. But they have a risk management team that then works for Starbucks, and they are through a TPA. So they use a TPA. They don't necessarily have claims teams that work directly for Starbucks. So you could get a job working for the TPA handling Starbucks claims. And that's kind of a good entry point, kind of learn some of these things where, yeah, you're a claims adjuster, but you're also kind of introing into risk management. And so that's one way that you could kind of start that, is look for TPA jobs, work for general liability positions they're supporting a self-insured risk or a self-insured retention. Or there are companies that have their own claims team that do this. Like Marriott is another company where I've seen there are claims adjusters that work directly for Marriott. So different companies do it different ways. Property management companies at times will have self-insured retention, and they'll have claims teams depending on how big they are. And so it's a really, really interesting way to kind of pivot your career. And get exposure to different things, but that can be kind of a career path that you could take as an adjuster. If, hey, like maybe I don't want to be an adjuster in 5 years, but I like it right now. What can I start doing right now to move into something else? That's a career path that you could take. And so don't sleep on some of those companies. Really cool careers, really interesting. There's restaurants, stores do it, like delivery services like FedEx are self-insured at times. I'm not sure if FedEx is specifically self-insured. I'm not positive on that, but what's that hardware? Home Depot. Like I wonder about stores like Home Depot. Are they self-insured? I'm not sure. But there's a lot of companies, especially large companies like Starbucks, that you don't necessarily think about having a risk management team. We have risk management team. My dream job is to work in risk management for Safehold Risk, dude. I would love to work for a ski area company. That's I won't ever do that, but that's my, if I could change careers and not be a recruiter and I would love to have that risk manager's job at a ski area, fly around the country and consult ski areas on how they can build their terrain park jumps and how they can make their areas safer and best practices and things like that. I think it's really interesting. But again, like when I worked for that ski area in Minnesota, the person that came out and held the clinic on how to build those jumps, I recently looked her up on LinkedIn because I was curious. And her job title, on LinkedIn at least, is claims adjuster. And so I found that really interesting that a claims adjuster for safe hold risk would fly out to Wausau, Wisconsin, and hold a clinic for all the ski areas in the area, specifically on how to build terrain parks and best practices, safety tips. You know, she wasn't hitting jumps. She was awesome though, but it was cool, you know, and she was a part of ski area management, which is an association. So it was really cool to kind of see that, but it got me thinking about kind of some of these things and how it all overlaps. But you think of your job as a claims adjuster to handle claims, but there is kind of another side of it, is like part of your job as a claim adjuster is to kind of assess risk. And if you're able to affect, you know, the loss ratios or make it so people are not getting injured and not you know, there's less claims because of it, it's also part of the industry. Really interesting. But yeah, her job title on LinkedIn was literally claims adjuster. I thought that was super interesting. How do I break in claims? Again, this is the Claims Recruiter office hours. If you're new here, if you're just tuning in, or if you've been here this whole time, want to say hello, drop a hi in the chat, say hello. Totally open format. We hang out here for an hour every single day and just kind of chat careers, claims that I hear, different questions I get throughout the week. The whole goal is just to try and help people level up. So if you got something you want to talk about, pop it in the chat. We can go through situations. We can do interview tips. We did a whole resume breakdown last week. And then I bring topics just that I hear throughout the week. I get this question kind of all the time. Reach out to me. Brand new, trying to break in. How do I do it? I think the biggest thing right now, when you're brand new or starting out or trying to get into it, is it's a competitive field at the end. There's a lot of people, especially in the property market, are looking for work. A lot of independent adjusters are looking for staff jobs. The independent adjusting market has been slow, and so you're competing with people for even entry-level positions that are not entry-level. And it's a very difficult market right now to break into. So again, the things that I would recommend is, one, look for entry-level positions, specifically larger insurance companies that have more well-established training programs. A lot of these are going to be in office positions or 3 days a week in office hybrid. So if you want to break into claims right now, if you're struggling getting interviews, if you're struggling getting jobs, that is where you should be looking. The next thing that I would recommend is to buff up your resume, buff up your experience and your skills. How do you do that if you don't have experience? It's education. And there's a little bit of a pay-to-play thing here. It's not going to be free, right? You can do a lot of these jobs without college degree at times, but that doesn't mean you're not educated. You have to have some sort of education. You have to have some sort of training. So if you want to be an auto adjuster, there's things that you do. If you want to be a property adjuster, there's things that you trainings that so you need to kind of look at whatever line of business that you're wanting to go into targeting. Look at the job description, start to build some of those skills. And if you can't do it with traditional experience, you can do it with some training. One of the things I would highly recommend is start taking classes to get your AIC. You don't have to get your AIC tomorrow. It's pretty expensive to do it. It's nicer if you can work for a company and get them to pay for it. But you can sign up, start taking a class, and then you can put on your resume that you're towards your AIC. And that's going to show employers that you're serious about this industry. You know, if you're a property adjuster, getting like a roofing certification, like the HAG certification, is showing people that you're serious about learning roofing standard, doing Xactimate, doing stability trainings, doing some of these things. So those are some of the things that I would start with. The second thing is the application process kind of the past of going on Indeed and submitting your job to 15 different companies and getting callbacks. Just doesn't quite work like that. It's really tough market. It's really hard to stand out. It's kind of the sea of robotic AI generated resumes. So my best advice is just to be a human in this sea of robotic AI resumes, and the way to do that is to make genuine connections with other humans. And so there's a couple ways you could do that. Local claims organizations is a fantastic way to do that. Meet people in your local area. Go to claims organizations, um, regionally, locally. You don't need to go to PLRB. You don't need to go to these big national conferences. Although they are great. PLRB is a great conference. Um, it's just expensive to do that. So chances are there is a claims organization somewhere near you. Go up, shake some hands, meet some people. Your job isn't, the goal isn't to necessarily go there and get a job. It's to meet people, get information, and make connections. And so you want to be kind of think about you're making friends, in an industry that you want to work in. And you might be able to get some advice. You might be able to get some tips. You may be able to learn a little bit. It sometimes comes from the people you expect the least. It's sometimes the restoration contractors or the roofing vendors. A lot of times these are the folks that know a lot of the information. And so talk to everybody, make conversations, get a couple business cards, do some follow-up, try and have conversations with people. And it's a good way to meet people. But connection, networking, conversations are all better than applications right now. It's really, really tough to get in just by a mass applying. And so going out and meeting people is one great way. You can also reach out to people online. And I think LinkedIn is an underused tool that you need to optimize your profile. You need to create a professional profile photo. You need to have a good headline. Explains you, so when people scroll over your name, they learn about you. They just shouldn't just say like experienced claims adjuster. You can talk about what you do, what you want to do, where you want to be, and then post once a week, post twice a week about topics in the industry. If someone likes your status, get a conversation, comment on other people's posts. Try and get in conversations. The goal of the conversation is not, hey, do you have a job for me? It's to create human connection. Good things will come from that. It just takes time. So keep applying, optimize your resume, do all the traditional things too, but try and get in 3 conversations a week about claim. And again, it's not, can I get a job from you? Are you hiring? It's, hey, I'm brand new into this. What do you think I should do? It's a good way to meet people, a good way to connect and connect you with other people that you know. I'd love to see statistics on what % of people get jobs from traditional application methods, and what % of people get jobs. And as a recruiter, my job is to go out and find people. I tell every single company, every person I ever work with, from a hiring standpoint, the best way to hire the best talent, referrals from your industry. You're a company out there and you don't have a referral program in place. You need to have a referral program in place, especially if you're struggling to find staff, or you're struggling to find people. Some sort of incentivized referral program worth every single penny. Doesn't have to be crazy. NACA is in Reno again this year. Will you be there? Dude, I want to go to NACA this year. I'm trying to decide if I should go to NACA. It's hard for me because, to be honest with you, Caleb, I'm kind of out of the independent game. I haven't been doing as much staffing or recruiting on the independent side over the last year and a half. And so I want to go. Honestly, I just want to go skiing. I just want to go to Tahoe. So I might go. I love NACA, and if you're tuning in, if you're listening, NACA is a really, really great conference if you're an independent adjuster, especially trying to network with different firms. I want to go just to meet adjusters and network with people. I love Reno. I would move to Reno. It's 45 minutes from Palisades, Tahoe, which is like one of the best skiers. 2 years ago when they were there, I went. It rained the whole time skiing. But I want to go, and I got a pass. I have the Icon pass, so I have days to Tahoe. To be determined. I could drive there. It's like a 10-hour drive. just not sure. I'm not sure. I think it's on my calendar. I think it's the week 8. I'm running a half marathon in Austin in 17. So I want to drive though, so I can go skiing, and that's my problem, man. But I don't know. To be determined. I've thought about it. I'd love to maybe do a speaking panel in the future at NACA. I want to go. I love that they're doing it in Reno, although I don't know if adjusters love as much that they're doing it in Reno. I love Reno. I think it's an awesome place. Mainly because it's 45 minutes away from Tahoe, and you got Lake Tahoe right there. You got some of the best skiing in the country. AT-22, that chairlift at used to be Squaw Valley. Now it's Palisades Tahoe. It's one of the sickest chairlifts of all time. Here's a little if you made it 53 minutes in here, there's what is it called? What is that movie? There's a movie, and it's really hard to find. It's only on Vimeo. It's called what's that called? NAR. There's a ski documentary called NAR, GNAR, NAR. Gaffney's Numerical Assessment of Radness. It's the greatest ski movie ever made, and it's about all these skiers at Tahoe that made up this game and then got banned from Tahoe. It's definitely rated R. It's on Vimeo if you ever want to watch it, but that's an all-time ski movie made about basically that chairlift at Palisades. AT-22. Gosh, oh man, I'll have to think about it. I do really want to go. I think NACA is like if you're an independent adjuster, NACA is the best conference that exists for you. 8 different firms. Bummer last year, kind of. I know there was like that ice storm, and so the attendance wasn't great just because traveling was a bear because of the weather. It was a huge bummer. But I'm 50%. We'll see how it shakes out. I'll be in Austin, Texas the week before running a half marathon with some of my friends. We'll see if I can make it out. Maybe I won't even if I want to go. Blake, thanks for tuning in. What'd you miss so far? So much good stuff. Let me tell you. Some good stuff. We're just hanging out. Yeah. I wish they'd, I love NACA. I think it's a great conference. There was one year during COVID where they did it in Florida. It was in Orlando. I wish they would just go Texas, Florida. And I know like it used to be Vegas every year because it was kind of like this like reward. You treat yourself to NACA, you go to Vegas. That was really fun, and I loved it in Vegas. The problem with Vegas is, when I worked at a firm, people wouldn't show up because they were out drinking and partying the night before, and so, when it was in Orlando, it was like at this resort center. There was nothing around, and it was just fantastic. Everybody hung out the whole conference. There was like different kind of hangout areas, but nobody really left the conference area. Reno's good too because it's kind of similar. People just kind of hang out in the resort area, and so I think it's awesome. But that Florida year during COVID was one of the best attended you ever saw, and I thought that was from a firm perspective. I kind of wish you would like just go Texas and Florida, but I also understand the rationale. Like it used to be this like big trip where you go treat yourself to Vegas and get your CEs while at it, and that was cool. There was the year where it was at the Rio. That was kind of fun. The Rio is such a nasty place. But yeah, Heavenly. That's that chairlift from Heavenly. It's heavenly. Yeah, man. Yeah, Caleb, let's get skiing out. Let's get out skiing sometime, dude. Oh, do you get a pass? Heavenly's on Epic. I bought the Icon Pass this year. I got some trips planned up in Canada. So I'm gonna do a little Canada trip. We're gonna go to Banff and a couple of the resorts up there on the Icon Pass, and so I get like 4 days at 25 different. I get days Palisades. I get days at Mount Bachelor. I get Crystal. I get Hopper, Winter Park, Steamboat. A couple days at Aspen. A couple days at Jackson. I won't use all those days, but I've been an Icon Pass customer for the past probably 10 years. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad they're doing it in Reno. I wish they would just do it in Texas and Florida just for attendance purposes. But yeah, man, we'll see. Oh. Well, I think that's all I got. I think that's all I got for today. I appreciate you joining in, Caleb. Tuning in the last couple weeks. Really appreciate you popping in, saying hello. Everybody else here too. Appreciate you, Blake. Anybody else who's still tuned in, made it the full hour with me. Appreciate you tuning in, hanging out in the Claims Recruiter weekly live stream. Do this every single Tuesday. Pretty open format. Just kind of hang out, chat, talk about things. We'll end it with the road to 100. I can't change this graphic. We changed it to 24 for Caleb, getting some work in St. Louis. Let's go. Almost 25. So we're up to 24. That number's wrong. I can't change my graphics that quick. But thanks so much for tuning in. Hope you all have a great week. Have a happy 4th of July. Have a wonderful holiday. Celebrating America's 250th birthday. Shout out USA. Let's go. I'll be running a marathon on Saturday. So if you wake up in the morning at 6 a.m. like me, just think about me. I'll be suffering. I'll be in the pain cave. Oh. Thanks so much for tuning in, y'all. Have a great rest of your week. See you next Tuesday. Caleb,